Hello, this is Professor James Strickler, and this is a course in American government. This lesson is from Unit 1 about theories of government. It is Lesson 1 about first concepts. We'll begin our study of American government by learning about its theoretical foundations in this first unit. We will begin that process by first defining some basic concepts that will frame the topic. In this lesson, you will learn about the meaning of the term politics. You'll learn about the meaning of the word state. You will learn about the meaning of the term government. And you will learn about the meaning of the word sovereignty. Let's begin with an obvious question for a course like this. What is politics? Actually take a moment to think about it and try to define it for yourself. What comes to mind? Perhaps you think of something like what is depicted in the picture on this slide. What has been historically described as the smoke-filled room, in which insider politicians meet privately to make corrupt bargains out of sight of public eyes. But politics is more than just backroom deals. It is a school board meeting attended by your friends and neighbors. It is a candidate kissing babies at a rally. It is a president praying as he contemplates war, and it is you casting your vote. We need a definition of politics that can encompass all those things. Politics is the process through which a group of people decides who gets what in their community. Who gets power? Who gets freedom? Who gets food? Maybe they put a king in charge of deciding. Maybe they hold a secret vote to let the majority decide. Maybe they decide to hold a lottery. Whatever conclusion they come to, the process of getting there is politics. In defining politics as we just did, we are presupposing that a community exists in which politics can happen. This leads us to our next question. What is a state? Again, take a moment to think about this question. What comes to mind? If you are like most Americans, you will think of a subdivision of the United States of America, like Texas, Ohio, or Tennessee. But defining a state that way creates a mistaken understanding of what the word really means. The maps on this slide each depict a different state. Perhaps you recognize these countries. And that is what the term state really means. A state is a country. We use the word properly when we speak of the state of Russia, or the state of Australia, or the state of France. So why are the subdivisions of the United States called states? It's an accident of history. After the American Revolution, the original 13 colonies became 13 separate little states. They were little countries, each with its own claimed borders that often overlapped with the claims of their neighbors. They remained separate countries until they joined together, more than a decade later, under the Constitution. They then formed one country, which we call the United States of America. Because of this confusing history, we need a general definition of the term state. Let's use this. A state is an organized community. It occupies a defined physical area, and it has a common authority ruling over all of it. That definition can fit both the state of France on the right and the state of Texas on the left. But we know these two things are different. One is a country, and the other is just part of a country. What is the real difference? That difference lies in our next concept, sovereignty. Have you heard that word before? Maybe you've heard the word sovereign. If you have, you've probably heard it used in some movie or TV show set in medieval times as a title for a king. What does such a title mean? Think about what makes a king a king. It is that everyone in his kingdom must obey him, and at the same time, he must obey no one else. If at some point someone else starts giving him orders that he must follow, he is no longer king. He is no longer sovereign. There is the essential characteristic of what makes someone sovereign. There is no one above him to tell him what to do. It is that same thing that makes a state sovereign or not sovereign. The state of Texas is not a sovereign state because it has someone else above it, the United States of America, who can tell it what to do, at least in some ways. The state of France is sovereign because there is no one above it politically to boss it around. We can now, then, have a general definition of what sovereignty means. Sovereignty is the power to govern without anyone else being able to tell you what to do. For a country to really be a country, it must be sovereign. If France does something that, say, the United Nations wants it to do, it does so because it chooses to do so, not because it has to do so. But in giving sovereignty this definition, we have assumed we understand an important idea that we haven't yet talked about. We said sovereignty is the power to govern, but what does it mean to govern? Or put another way, what is government? When I just say that word, what comes to mind? Is it something like what you see in this picture? The United States Congress meeting, listening to a president, working to decide what laws our sovereign state needs? Isn't that just the same as politics? No, it isn't. We can see the difference in the pictures on this page. All of them depict politics. People somehow deciding who gets what. But only one of these pictures shows government. Pirates dividing their loot is politics. A family deciding where to go on their vacation is politics. A police officer deciding whether to issue a ticket is both politics and government. So what is the difference? Government is formal. It involves a defined set of rules and procedures within which politics is conducted. We call the product of those procedures laws, and it possesses mechanisms for controlling the outcome. In other words, tools through which the government can force members of the community to obey its decision. That is the police. In our next lesson, we will learn more about how government differs from other entities that may try to control us. That completes this lesson. Now, let's review what we have learned. What is politics? Is it candidates and voting? Is it the preferences of the public? Is it controlling a certain area? Or is it how we decide who gets what? Politics is how we decide who gets what. What is a state? Is it a subdivision of a country? Is it an area under the same ruler? Is it the condition of a thing? Or is it a public service provider? A state is an area under the same ruler. This does not mean necessarily a single king. It could be a committee, council, or Congress that is the ruler over the whole area. What is sovereignty? Is it a process for resolving conflicts? Is it the boundaries of a community? Is it the ability to get things done? Or is it having supreme political authority? Sovereignty is having supreme political authority. There's no one above you to boss you around. What is government? Is it rules to live by? Is it a system to control a community? Is it our moral leaders? Or is it institutions people depend on? Government is a formal system for controlling a community. That completes this lesson. The next lesson will also be from Unit 1. It'll be Lesson 2 about government power. In that lesson, we'll learn how government is different from other institutions that may also try to control us.